You tithed every month. You prayed at 5 a.m. You worked the second job nobody asked you to work. And somewhere underneath all of it, you started keeping score. You wouldn't say that out loud, but the math is there, in the back of your mind, every time the bill comes and the answer doesn't. Here's what nobody tells you about that score. The day God lets it collapse isn't the day He forgot you. It's the day He finally trusts you enough to show you what you've actually been sitting on the whole time, and the ledger you've been filling out in the dark is about to be read back to you in a language you've never heard before. There's a man in this story whose ledger looks like yours. $47,000. 11 years. And God was about to collapse it on purpose, not to destroy him, but to show him what it had been hiding. What he finds when he finally looks down will change what you see when you look at your own hands. Cornelius was 41 years old. A structural engineer. The kind who inspects bridges, the ones you drive over without thinking, held up by lines of force you can't see. He had tithed every month for 11 years. He kept a spiral notebook for it, black cover, college ruled. Date. Amount. Running total. The last entry was circled twice. $47,320. He prayed at 5 a.m. He drove freight on Saturdays to make the numbers work. He showed up to church before the lights were on and stacked chairs after they went off. And underneath it all, he was afraid. Not the loud kind of afraid. The quiet kind. The kind that wakes you at 3 a.m. with a chest that feels full of cold water and a question you won't ask out loud: what if all of this isn't working? He never used that word. He called it waiting on God. He called it being faithful in the small things. But if you'd asked him, in the right moment, with the right silence between you, he would have admitted it. He was a man with a ledger. And he believed heaven had one too. And he believed his column was full, and the other column was empty, and one day the books would balance. He'd built a whole interior on that belief. A man can stand on something like that for a long time, until the ground under it moves. Here's what I found in Ecclesiastes that most people never sit with. Chapter 5, verse 19. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, this is the gift of God. Read it slowly. The wealth is the first gift. The power to eat it is the second. Cornelius had received the first gift for 11 years, enough to give every single month. The second gift, the power to taste it, was still unopened. Most people never receive it. They have peace and don't taste it. They have breath and don't notice it. They have people who answer the phone, and they only call when something is wrong. They are rich, and they are starving at the table. Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived, wrote that. After he had everything, he wasn't writing about money. He was writing about a deeper poverty. The poverty of a man who cannot see what is already in his hand. And the way God gives you those eyes is almost never the way you choose. It started on a Thursday. Cornelius's supervisor called him into the office at 2:15 p.m. Budget restructuring. Municipal contract terminated. Nothing personal. 20 minutes to clear his desk. He cleared it in 15. He drove home in complete silence. No radio. No phone. He pulled into his driveway and did not get out of the car. He sat there for 47 minutes. The work badge was still clipped to his shirt pocket when he finally walked through the front door. His wife asked how his day was. He said fine. He went upstairs. He sat on the edge of the bed. And the dread he had been carrying for 11 years, the cold water dread at 3 a.m., finally had a name. The name was God didn't catch me. He didn't know yet that the only place that thought could die was a room full of men who had actually fallen. A man can survive a lot, but he cannot survive that thought sitting in his chest with no work to drown it out. Savings didn't. Pride did not. He couldn't bring himself to apply for jobs that fell beneath what he'd built. He couldn't stand the look on his wife's face when she walked past the office at 10 a.m. and saw him in it. He thought he was looking for an escape from humiliation. He had no idea he was about to walk straight into the thing that would end it. So he did the only thing a proud man can do when he needs to be somewhere, anywhere that isn't his own house. He volunteered. Not from calling. From need. The transitional housing shelter downtown needed a coordinator for the overnight intake shift. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Processing men just released from prison in the first 72 hours after they came out. Paperwork. Curfews. A bed. A meal. He took it because no one he knew would see him there. And on his fourth night, at 11:40 p.m., a man sat down across the folding table from him. Fluorescent lights overhead. A coffee maker on the counter that had been broken for 3 weeks. A stack of intake forms between them. The man was 53 years old. He had been released that afternoon. He had 2 plastic bags in the clothes he was wearing. He looked at Cornelius. He said, "Could I have a glass of water? And somewhere to sleep tonight?" Cornelius poured the water from a pitcher into a plastic cup. He set it on the table. The man picked it up with both hands like it weighed something. Cornelius had spent 20 years inspecting bridges. He knew what it looked like when something had been bearing weight for a long time without anyone checking the load. He had condemned structures for less visible damage than what he saw in this man's face. And sitting across that folding table, forehead tight, hands wrapped around a plastic cup, he understood for the first time that he had never once run that inspection on himself. Was it the contract? It wasn't there anymore, and he was still breathing. Was it the notebook? The $47,000 logged in 2 columns? The man across the table didn't have $47. And he was drinking water like it was wine at a wedding. The smallness of what was in front of him is what kept him in the chair. A cup. A form. A bed assignment. The task was so small and so necessary that to walk away from it would have required him to become someone he didn't recognize. So he stayed. He filled out the form. He walked the man to a cot. And when he came back to the folding table, he sat down. And he could not remember the last time he had said thank you for a glass of water. He had never been poor. Here's what nobody told Cornelius in 11 years of tithing. The blessings you are praying for, most of them are already in your house. You have not been waiting on God. God has been waiting on you to look down. And the reason you can't see them is the same reason the man in the dark cannot see what is already on the shelf beside him. He needs the lights to come on. And the lights almost never come on while you're holding the things you thought were keeping you upright. He drove home that first morning and sat in the driveway for 11 minutes. He didn't know why. He just wasn't ready to go inside yet. The first thing he noticed was peace. Not his peace, theirs. Or rather, the absence of it. The men who came through the intake door at 11 p.m. weren't asking for money. They were asking for quiet. A room without noise. A bed without someone above them. A door that closed. One man, 28 years old, just out after 6 years inside, sat on the edge of his cot in the dorm and just listened to nothing for 40 minutes before he laid down. Cornelius walked past, and the man looked up and said, "I forgot what this sounded like." Cornelius drove home that morning. He turned off the engine. He sat in the same driveway, in the same car. He just listened to nothing. And for the first time in 11 years, he understood that he had been living inside an answered prayer. He just hadn't known its name. But quiet alone wasn't enough, because a man can be in a silent room and still be starving. And that's when he started seeing it in the next thing they reached for. The second thing was food. A man came in on a Wednesday and asked what was in the refrigerator. Cornelius told him. The man stood in front of the open door for a long time and then said, "I haven't picked what I was going to eat in 6 years." He took a yogurt. He sat down at the table. He ate it slowly, and he cried a little while he ate it, and he tried not to let anyone see. Cornelius went home that morning and opened his own refrigerator. Leftover chicken, bread, butter, orange juice his wife had bought because she remembered he liked it. He stood there with the door open and his hand on the handle was shaking a little. He sat down. He ate slowly, because for 11 years he had opened that refrigerator at least twice a day, and he had never once seen what was inside it. He had been blind to provision. That was the word that came to him. Not unlucky, not forgotten, blind. But the refrigerator wasn't the thing that broke him open. That came with a phone and a name he hadn't said in years. The third thing was a phone number. A man came in on a Friday and asked if there was a phone he could use. Cornelius slid his own across the table. The man dialed a number from memory. It rang. A woman answered. The man said, "Mama, it's me. I'm out." And then he could not speak for almost a minute. He just held the phone and breathed into it. And Cornelius listened to a woman on the other end say her son's name 3 times, like she was checking that it was really him. Cornelius drove home. He sat in his driveway, forehead against the steering wheel. He pulled out his own phone. He looked at the names in it. His mother, his brother, 2 old friends he hadn't called in 4 years because he'd been too busy. His wife sleeping inside the house. He had 31 people in that phone who would answer if he called. The man at the shelter had one. The question in his chest had changed. Not "Why haven't you paid me back?" But how long have I been blind to the people already in my hands? He thought the phone call was the breaking. It wasn't. It was the mirror. The real breaking came with the morning. The fourth thing was morning. He had been waking at 3 a.m. for 2 years in cold dread. And one night, on the overnight shift, he watched the sky go from black to gray to a thin band of orange over the parking lot. A man walked out the front door of the shelter to begin his first full day outside in 9 years. The man stood on the sidewalk. He looked up at the sky. He spread his hands slightly at his sides, like he was checking that the air was real. He did not move for a long time. Cornelius sat in his car and could not look away. He thought about every bridge he had ever inspected, the ones that had been standing for decades, bearing weight no one thought to measure, holding up everything that crossed them without a word of acknowledgement. He thought about what it meant to finally look at the thing that had been holding you and see it clearly for the first time. He drove home that morning. He slept 4 hours. He woke at 10 a.m. in his own bed without panic, in a room that was quiet, in a house that was warm, with a woman asleep beside him who had bought him orange juice because she remembered he liked it. He lay still for a long time. He thought, I just got another one of these. And I almost slept through it. And one night, the 7th week on the shift, he slept 6 hours straight for the first time in 2 years. He woke up at 5:30 a.m. The room was quiet. His chest was warm. There was no cold water in it. He didn't know what would come next. For the first time, it didn't matter. A Saturday morning. October. Cornelius made coffee. He went into the room where he kept his desk. He took the spiral notebook off the shelf, black cover, college-ruled, the spine creased from 11 years of opening, the same one. He brought it to the kitchen table. He opened it. $47,320. 11 years. Every entry circled, dated, totaled. He had opened that notebook hundreds of times. Always to calculate. Always to ask the same silent question, am I close yet? Have I given enough yet? When does the return on this come? He read it differently this time. Every entry was no longer a deposit. Every entry was evidence. Evidence of a man who, in every one of those months, had enough. Enough to pay the rent. Enough to feed his family. Enough to give. The notebook was not a record of what he was owed. It was a structural report on 11 years of provision, and every line was a load that had been carried, every month a span that it held. This wasn't a balance sheet waiting to be settled. It was an inspection log. And every entry said the same thing, still standing. There were still nights when the old arithmetic tried to reassemble itself, the entries, the years, the silence that had followed. But he no longer picked up the pen when it did. Losing the contract had torn up the floorboards. The silence at home had left him nowhere to hide from the question. The cup of water across a folding table had cracked the lens. Night after night, the men's hunger had rebuilt it, blessing by blessing, until this kitchen table and this notebook were no longer a bill but a testimony. Each one had taken something he thought was holding him up, until the only thing left was the notebook and what it actually said. He closed the notebook. He set it down on the table. He laid the pen across it. Not inside it. Across it. He heard the small sound it made against the cover. He felt the stillness of the room. Like an engineer signing off on a structure that had been sound the whole time. Like a man closing a chapter. He did not open the notebook again. He sat with his coffee. He finished it. He washed the cup. He set it in the rack to dry. The day the score collapsed was not the day God forgot him. It was the day he finally saw what had been holding him up. 3 weeks later, an email came in from a smaller firm. A part-time inspection contract. Not his old salary. Not the restoration of what was lost. But enough. He read it once. He closed the laptop. He finished his coffee. It was not proof. The proof was already on the table. You were rich the whole time. This is your story. Not the engineer. Not the shelter. The pattern. You have been praying for something while standing on top of it. You have been waiting for God to fill a cup that has been full the whole time. You have been keeping score against a heaven that was never running a ledger, only you were. And the silence you've been hearing, the silence that has felt like abandonment, is not God's absence from your life. It is the sound of your own ears, deaf to the abundance of what is already in your hands. Every day you don't stop to look is another day you live as a creditor in a house that was already paid for. 1. Tonight, before you sleep, write down 5 blessings you have not thanked God for in over a year because you forgot they were blessings. Not big ones. Small ones. The kind you walk past. 2. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, sit in the silence of the room for 60 seconds before you reach for your phone. Just 60. And notice that you woke up. That is not a default. That is a gift. 3. This week, call one person you have not called in over a year, not to ask for anything, not to fix anything. Just to say their name out loud into a phone and tell them you are glad they exist. If this feels uncomfortably specific, there's a reason. If you're hearing yourself in Cornelius, it's because I did too. In 2017, I sat at a kitchen table in Charlotte at 4 a.m. with a budget spreadsheet open and a Bible face down beside it that I hadn't actually read in 6 weeks, just moved it from room to room so it looked like I had. The cursor was blinking over a negative balance. I had been tithing. I had been showing up. I had been saying the words. But somewhere underneath all of it, I had been keeping score. And the silence I felt wasn't God's absence. It was the sound of a man who had confused faithfulness with a transaction and was furious that the other party hadn't held up his end. I was Cornelius at that table, different numbers, same ledger. My name is Elias. 15 years reading numbers, and I still couldn't read what was already in my hands. What I found when I finally looked is on this channel. If you decided today is the last day you will live as a creditor waiting on a divine debt, if you are ready to stop counting what is owed to you and start stewarding what has already been entrusted to you, type "I am the steward" in the comments below. Don't type it because I asked. Type it because you are making a covenant with yourself in public that you will never again confuse waiting with poverty. If this helped you, consider sharing it with one person you know is praying for something they are already sitting on. Subscribe, not for entertainment, but to keep your eyes trained on what the ancient texts say about wealth that lasts longer than the salary that just ended. Father, we come to you tonight as men and women who have been keeping a ledger you never asked us to keep. Forgive us for measuring your faithfulness in deposits and withdrawals. Forgive us for standing in rooms full of your provision and calling them empty. Forgive us for praying for what was already in our hands. Open our eyes, not to new things, to the things we have walked past for years. The breath in our chest, the roof over our head, the names in our phone, the morning we woke up to, the faith that has not yet left us. Teach us to be stewards instead of supplicants. Teach us that the gift is not the wealth. The gift is the power to see it. Make our hands grateful before they are full. Make our eyes wealthy before our accounts are. In the name of Jesus. Amen. You were rich the whole time.